Hi, welcome to That's Ready Mysterious, the show where every bite-sized mystery is rooted in reality. I'm your host, Kelly with an I, leading you through a maze of short stories that are filled with perplexing true mysteries. From missing people to unsolved crimes to eerie coincidences, each episode invites you to step into the unknown and question the ordinary. These tales aren't from fiction, they're stories history hasn't solved. Whether you seek suspense, love curious facts, or are just drawn to stories that linger in your mind, That's Ready Mysterious is your weekly passport into the truly strange, baffling, and unforgettable. Tune in and let the mysteries begin. Transcripts and references for all episodes can be found at that'sreadymysterious.wordpress.com. No apostrophe and no exclamation point. Today's tale is about the Paraná Delta Eye. Sergio Neuspiller is an Argentinian director. He was making a film about the paranormal in the area when he flew over the eye. He said, "We found the perfect circle as seen from the air. The water looked black, but in reality it was a completely transparent water, something that is almost impossible to find in the delta because the waters are generally muddy, but it had a black earth bottom." Paraná is South America's second longest river. It is 4,880 kilometers, or 3,032 miles long. The river goes through three countries, Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina. El Ojo, or the Eye, can be found in Argentina, in the swampy Paraná River Delta, which is in the Buenos Aires province. The delta can be found between the cities of Cereté and Campana. The coordinates of the eye are 34 degrees, 15 minutes, 17.8 seconds south, 58 degrees, 49 minutes, 47.4 seconds west. The eye is a perfectly round floating island, so called because it resembles a round oculus when seen from above. The eye is uninhabited. Experts believe it's about 30 years old, but they aren't sure how it was formed or when, and they aren't sure how and why it moves around on its own. The eye is 118 meters, or 387 feet in diameter. It's made up of plants, roots, and other organic matter. It is anchored to the riverbed, but drifts freely around the lake in which it resides. It floats around on a current that circles the lake, making the eye rotate on its axis and glide against the shoreline. It floats freely on its axis. The eye is constantly in motion. It has widened the lake, shaving both the shore and the island into perfect circles. The rotating eye bumps into the soil on the shore, giving it the momentum needed to cause the muddy area of both the island and the shore to separate and erode. The eye moves in a clockwise direction. The current on which it floats is believed to be created by huge natural wells that make streams of water that move the island. The land of the eye is very solid, which is not typical for its surroundings. The eye was first seen in satellite images around 20 years ago, but it's not clear when the island broke off from the mainland. Scientists think that happened sometime around 2003. The eye floats in a crystal clear lake as perfectly circular as the island itself. El Observador, a South American newspaper, says that the island and the lakeshore mutually created each other's smooth radiuses. This was done through erosion in a process called shear. Scientists claim that the cold water currents underneath the eye, which all flow in the same direction, create enough friction to cause erosion. Some scientists think that there might be a cold spring beneath the island, which would explain the cold temperature of the lake and the color difference from the surrounding delta, and which may cause the currents. In 2016, Neuspiller was making a documentary. He was looking for a good location in which to shoot his film on the paranormal. The crew flew over the island and were awed by how it looked, a perfect circle. Neuspiller thought this would be the perfect location for his film. The crew landed the helicopter close by and went to investigate the island. They climbed onto the island and waded through the vegetation. Neuspiller thought it was odd that the water looked black but was actually transparent. It was odd to find transparent water with black earth at the bottom in this delta. He said that it was an unexplored area, saying it took some difficulty to reach the island. He said it took 4 hours to get there. However, when he got to the island to scout it better, he discovered it had moved. So he investigated the mystery further. While doing research, the crew found out that the local people knew about the eye but didn't venture there because of a belief that ancient gods lived there. Without evidence, some people think that the island attracts UFOs. They say the island is too perfectly circular to be a natural phenomenon, and the water around the island is too clear and too cold for this delta. Other nearby lakes are warm. Some people believe that the eye hides a colony of aliens. Others think it's a beacon that attracts aliens. Some don't believe the alien theory at all and claim again, without evidence, that there's a Nazi base hidden under the island. Some people don't believe the scientific explanation of the rotation of the eye. They say that the island is a supernatural occurrence. In 2016, Newspiller became very interested in the island and worked with a New York hydraulic and civil engineer, Riccardo Petroni, to raise money to solve the mystery. They were hoping to do extensive scientific and paranormal research, including a scuba expedition, drone data collection, and sampling local plants, soil, and other objects. They wanted to include biologists, geologists, and ufologists. The pair started a Kickstarter fundraiser to raise $50,000 to complete their goals. They didn't even raise 1/5 of the money they were looking for, getting only $9,698. As a result, they were unable to investigate further. Kickstarter declared the campaign unsuccessful on October 10, 2016. Daniel Roy Finkley says that the eye is similar to dozens of other formations near the coast of Argentina. These formations are called matupas, or floating islands. The eye might also possibly be linked to other natural phenomena like the Westbrook ice disk seen floating in the Passumpket River in Maine during the winter of 2019. Ice disks are fairly common with the correct atmospheric conditions. They become almost perfectly round due to rotational shear, which happens when water currents flow to one side of the disk. The ice rotates in a circular formation and gets repeatedly eroded and polished around the edges, forming a very symmetrical circle. When you compare ice disks to the eye, a slow-moving current flows beneath one side of the floating island, naturally moving it in a circle. The eye is not the only famous floating island. There are others, including in Finland, Turkey, Italy, Serbia, the Danube Delta in Romania and Ukraine, Lake Titicaca in the border of Bolivia and Peru, Lake Loktak in India, and others. The eye, however, is unique due to its shape and constant movement. Floating islands are usually based on large roots which end up in the water, and other aquatic plants then grow on them. Plants found around the shore of wetlands can spread inward from the shore to a point where the roots don't reach the deeper parts of the lake or river. The plants use the oxygen in the root mass to float and the surrounding vegetation as supportive to survive. Sporadic violent storms can pull the floating island of vegetation back and forth across the lake or river because of the wind. Sometimes the floating island will break up entirely. Sometimes, however, the floating islands last longer. In Lake Titicaca, a group of 120 floating islands were taken over by the indigenous tribe, the Uru, but they require constant work to maintain. How and why does the eye move so freely? A group called El Ojo Project has gone to the island to find an explanation, but so far has come up empty. Some researchers call the eye a vegetation reservoir, which is a land formation that, when it breaks off, can create a floating island, which then moves due to currents and winds. Some scientists say that these natural formations should be biosphere reserves because they allow for evolution of some species. Floating islands with plants are rare. Similar to ice disks, could they be created through the correct set of conditions? What created the eye? How did it become a perfect circle? Does it move around on a current? Is it a beacon for aliens or something more benign? What do you think? Thank you for joining me on our adventure through today's mystery. The stories that That's Ready Mysterious covers are often stranger than fiction. If you enjoyed today's tale, subscribe to make sure you never miss a story that challenges the ordinary and reveals the mysterious. Until next time, keep questioning, and remember the world is full of mysteries yet to be explored.